Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Tempest Universe. This episode was supposed to happen tomorrow on Thursday, but it's been such a shit show in ufology. I figure I'd just get out there and let you know what's happening today, what's happening right now in ufology. I thank you for watching this or listening or both. It depends on what kind of handicap you got, but still, folks on the podcast audio only, thank you for coming back and listening. I appreciate every single one of you. And YouTube is going a little slow. We kind of gave up a bunch of followers on the first channel, but we moved to the second because somebody said, hey, maybe the reason why you're not getting exposure is because someone has blocked your channel. So we moved over to the Tempest Universe 2. So if you're looking for us on the internet, it is the Tempest Universe 2. And if you want to look for the older stuff, it is the Tempest Universe Archive. Just in case. Now, there is an episode from the archive that I'm going to bring over to Tempest Universe 2. It has to do with a young lady who is no longer with us, who had an incredible UFO experience as a child. And not only are we going to republish that in the Tempest Universe 2, but we're also going to bring her son on a separate episode to kind of talk about how that was like. How is it to live with someone that was an experiencer, right? Some of you out there are experiencers, or you have family members that were experiencers, but you're living in that situation. So that's what we're going to bring on probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to get that together, but the story of Nyla, the experiencer, rest in peace, Nyla, will be in the next week or so. And it'll be an extra episode for the week, so you can listen to that. And this was part of UFO Buster Radio when the interview actually happened. And it was, what can I say? It's fantastic. There was some weird, crazy stuff happened the first time we tried to contact Nyla, and then a second attempt we got it together, and it was a good interview because, again, right now we focus on what the government says are credible people. Well, I think Nyla was credible. I think most of the people out there that in their day-to-day, they experience these things, they're credible also. I think the government just got to realize that not everyone is a shit show. Some of us experience this phenomena and are just regular folks. Regular, everyday folks that come across this. I mean, for fuck's sake, the damn UFO got to your base, but it got there somehow. It traversed somewhere. Of course, people say some of these are interdimensional, so they go through portals or some crazy shit like that. But a lot of them just travel. And when they travel, they are seen and experienced. Just something to keep in mind. Eventually the people, you, me, your cousin, your mama, your dada, your uncle, who have experienced a UFO sighting need to be brought into this conversation. I'm just saying, that's the way it is. The first one, we kind of left off on this one in the last episode, which was the conversation about vetted Patrick and his interview with an individual that had a bombshell report. And actually, Patrick conducted the interview himself. And if you haven't watched Vetted, V for Vetted up there in the corner, it's not for the other V, the aliens that come down and eat your cat and shit like that. The lizard people. No, this is V for Vetted. Patrick is the host. And I gotta say this about Patrick. For the most part, Patrick is really how would you say? He's very skeptical about things. You know what I mean? He's a skeptical plus, I think. And listen, a lot of times I don't know how he comes through the way he thinks about things. Because sometimes I'm like, no, Patrick, you're full of shit, Patrick. That shit is real. And then turns out it's not. Turns out Patrick was right. So I don't know. He's got skepticism to another level. So let me tell you when I was shocked. When he conducted this interview on his last episode. And by the way, the link to that episode, that interview, is in the description of this podcast or the YouTube channel. It is titled "The Nazca Mummies Are Still Alive." As I mentioned in the prior episode, there are reports that these beings, which are also known as the tridactyls, some of them are alive, not the mummies. And this is where things get confusing because a lot of people are saying that the mummies are alive. No. Beings, tridactyls, that are like these mummies are being reported as being alive right now and in the area of Nazca, not too far from where these caves are that have all these bodies. I know, it's crazy. It totally is. I get it. I don't even know how to explain it, but on this interview with Gonzalo Chavez, he literally confirmed that there was a team of archaeologists that had a paleontologist named Klaus Honninger, who 3 years before they discovered Maria, who was the one of the main tridactyls. And I think I got a picture of her here. This is Maria. I know. Doesn't look like any Maria you know, but there she is. According to this individual, Klaus Honninger, they were out there basically taking a tour of these caves and, where they found all these mummies, and they saw a UFO land near them, and they had an experience. One of the aliens that came out of this particular UFO was a tridactyl that looked similar to Maria. What he noted in a presentation, in the presentation he was giving, is that incident, that experience with that UFO occurred 3 years before Maria was discovered in this quite compromising position she's in. Can you really make this stuff up? I don't even know anymore. It's one thing that you find these mummified bodies, and again, they continue to report on the X account regarding the Nazca mummies that their tests, their MRIs, all of their exams that they're doing on these corpses, these mummies, that they are not made of multiple body parts from different beings, that they are intact, a single being. Now, again, like I said last time, it is not the same for all of them. There's things that are indicating that there might have been a period where maybe people in Nazca, ancient people in Nazca, were creating tributes to these beings, these tridactyls. And so they created little dolls that were made of other people, other animals, I don't even know. But these smaller dolls, some of them, yes, they contain pieces, bones, and all these other things from different beings, whether they're humanoid or animal. But then there's specimens like Maria, which are intact. It's all one entity altogether, one being. And then you go into the conversation, well, elongated heads, there were tribal people back in the day that like to stretch skulls just for the fuck of it. But they're not finding this with the specimens like Maria. And Maria's not the only one, there's other ones. But of course, she was one of the first ones that were brought out, so they're the ones that are center stage. So the story right now is that others have encountered live hominids, tridactyl hominids, like Maria, and they're basically playing music and things like that. I know, it just takes a twist. Every time you talk about this stuff, there's always a little twist that makes you giggle on the inside like a little kid. So some of the grave robbers apparently have come across these tridactyl-like entities, and they're smaller ones, of course, And these smaller ones, apparently, just they like to play music. I mean, they're not playing a salsa or a bachata or something like that down in Nazca, but they're playing their own music. Is it possible that we have a species of a being uh, or whatever it is that's living underground that we've really not come across so much in the States or in the UK, but there's somewhere in Nazca there just happens to be live tridactyls. Listen, this is the age of technology. We need to send these guys down in Nazca, all the grave robbers, everybody gets a brand new 8K video camera to go down there and film these little things, playing music and celebrating. Whatever, I don't know what they're celebrating because it is what it is. I'm pretty sure it's not anything that we would give two F's about, but it is what it is. But imagine the discovery. If we can actually prove that these things are alive and down there in that cave system doing their thing, dancing, having a good time, eating the local people, I don't even know what they do. I don't even know if Maria has teeth. But what an amazing thing that would be. I've got a link to the interview again to vet the episode where Patrick is talking to Gonzalo Chavez, which is the individual that confirmed that this was going on down in Nazca, and all related to these mummies. Don't get confused by the chatter. There's always chatter that's nuts. Someone is always out there. There's always some kind of a psyop. For those of you who are really into ufology, there's always some kind of a psyop to take you off what's really going on. This might be one of those cases. There might be somebody trying to keep humanity away from the story of these tridactyls, and maybe even on the next level, I'm a little bit skeptical about this, but live tridactyls, maybe about 3 feet tall, they like to get down. I mean, I don't know. We need to figure this out, but the only way to do it is to do it. We just got to get out there and find out what the hell is going on. The next story, wow. I'm sure most of you who follow ufology know Chris Bledsoe and his story. I know most of you who follow ufology know the podcast that's named American Alchemy, right? With Jesse Michaels. About a day ago, maybe a little more, Jesse Michaels had Chris Bledsoe on American Alchemy, and they were talking about. It was different. Let me just say it was different because Jesse kind of went all over the place. It was more like a fanboy interview because he really wanted to talk to Chris about all these things. Now, Chris Bledsoe has been on probably every freaking podcast there is now. He's been everywhere. But there seems to be always a little more that comes out every time. One of the main things that Chris Bledsoe was so, I guess, enamored in his experiences with people in government that have been coming to him regarding his experience was Tim Taylor. So Tim Taylor allegedly is someone that's deep within the ranks of NASA. He's a mission controller, and apparently a whole lot of other things outside of NASA. Chris even alluded to the fact that he might be part of the NRO. He gave these crazy stories about how Tim Taylor, when he's down at Kennedy Space Center, they actually track every rocket that goes up at different stages using different vehicles. The final way to track these through satellites, in which, according to Chris Bledsoe, Tim Taylor goes into a secret room that no one else has access to but Tim in order to watch any rockets that go into space from the Kennedy Space Center or any NASA facility, and he watches these from satellite because according to Chris, Tim has advised them that every single rocket has a visit from an alien, NHI, whatever it is. Every rocket is scanned by some kind of a foreign vehicle. I mean, who knows, right? If they're interdimensional, they lived in the sea, like a fucking can of tuna. I don't know. But this is what he said during this interview. Again, for your pleasure, I've linked the whole episode. I'm gonna warn you right now. The episode is about 3.5 hours. It is long. There really wasn't a spot in this where I was like, oh my God, get on with it. But to be completely upfront, I did play this at 1.5, right? 1.5 times the normal speed. Because, anything over like 45 minutes, you would lose me. You will. I'll fall asleep on the shit. And I wouldn't even get what the hell they're talking about. But anyway, so they were on there. They had this interview. And hey, a lot of stuff came out of this, especially from Chris Bledsoe, because he talked about things that we see in movies, like a neuralizer. Yeah. He literally said that there's a neuralizer that government types can use that are connected to the UFO ufology situation to erase your memory. So if you have something that you've experienced that is critical, important, that they don't want you to see, they will neuralize the shit out of you and you won't remember it. On the screen right now is a screen capture from American Alchemy. Jesse Michaels is on the right. Chris Bledsoe, if you've never seen him, he is on the left. But what a story. Like, what the hell is going on? Chris, during the interview, said a few times that in previous podcast episodes, he has alluded to being reprimanded for saying too much regarding things like the neuralizer, saying too much about NASA, maybe sharing too much of what Tim Taylor has been sharing with him. It's a long episode. I suggest you watch it just so you can figure out what the hell's going on. Like I said, Tim's been everywhere. He's been on Rogan and all these other podcasts telling his story. A lot of people tend to think, and actually the question was presented by Jesse Michaels about people thinking that he might be the next Jesus. There is a lot of Chris Bledsoe that has a lot of spirituality connected to his experience. And honestly, listen, the only way I could really figure out what Chris Bledsoe was about was by downloading his book through Amazon. And I just listened to it while I'm doing my work. But the question did come up during this episode as well, because like I said, everything's based on spirituality, and it's something about this that's different. His story is completely different than, Travis Walton. Travis was up there with the boys. They were working, taking down some wood in the mountains, and then all of a sudden they come across, as they were making their way home, they come across a UFO. Travis Walton jumps out because he was in his early 20s. He gets zapped and taken away for a week. Chris Bledsoe was a little different. Chris Bledsoe had his experience when he was in a time of need. He's in a small community. Everybody knew him, and his life started falling apart. And he was looking for answers, not at the local government office. He was looking up to the stars, to the sky, to his God. And then he had a UFO incident. That'll teach you guys. Stop fucking around. Don't be praying out loud. You go in your house and you pray. Don't be in the middle of the fucking woods praying because you don't know what the hell's gonna come after you. But anyway, he had an experience in the woods. It's interesting. Let me tell you, it really is. And his son was also part of that experience as well. So there's a whole dynamic there with the family and Chris Bledsoe and a lot of things that happened since he disclosed that experience. I mean, listen, go to the book. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. If you go to this podcast episode with Jesse Michaels, you hear some of it, but check it out. Right after this episode aired, something hit the fan. I want to say something poopsicle-ish. And that is that an employee of NASA that goes by the X account Desmo filed a formal NASA OIG complaint. In the complaint, he accuses Tim Taylor of using his NASA contractor credentials to defraud people. People he talked about was Diana Pasulka and our buddy, the one and only Chris Bledsoe. How did this happen? I'm telling you, ufology is always a hotbed of shit. There's always somebody around to shoot you down, to trample over your ufology story. And so that's what happened, right? It's been all over X. It's been all over the place. You know, this guy Desmo is saying that he's a fraudster. That Tim Taylor is a fraudster. Now, mind you, if you watch this episode of American Alchemy, you will see just from what Jesse Michaels says, Tim Taylor is not only a mystery, but he's almost like a god of ufology right now. There are some stories about him that he's said to many people like he's a time traveler. What in the world is that? Well, what is that? It is crazy. Apparently, there's a story where Tim Taylor told Chris Bledsoe's son that he was part of a secret time travel group based in Nassau. That also he was in contact with Thomas Townsend Brown, and Thomas Townsend Brown is the president of that time traveler group. There's a lot about Thomas Townsend Brown in this episode as well. He may have or may have not been the one to first discover anti-gravity in the 1950s. Where's that info right now? Nobody fucking knows. It's nuts. This is why we had to do the podcast episode a day early, because they're just too much. It just needed to come out because it was crazy. Now the episode on American Alchemy is called "Why NASA Studies This Man. He Attracts UFOs," and the link is in the description. The whole part about him attracting UFOs is bananas. He does have two examples of these orbs, because I think they're mostly all orbs. But there's two examples that he shows Jesse during this episode, which one of them, actually both of them just blew me away because of the situation in which these orbs appeared, and he just happened to have his phone handy to take a picture of these things. I understand. There's a lot of reasons for you and I and everybody else to think this is fake, this is made up nonsense. There is plenty. But while you suspend your skepticism, keep a little bit in your back pocket always. That's the way ufology works. Don't go ham full in. Don't just dive head first. You got to keep a little bit of skepticism on the side, because you never know what the hell is going to go wrong. I mean, it's a true story. That's the way I roll, to be honest, because you just never know. The next one is the next story for this particular episode, which could not wait, because in the last episode I also talked about, actually no, 2 episodes ago, I talked about Age of Disclosure. Wowzers. Age of disclosure included 34 witnesses I think they're whistleblowers at this point. And these were government people, they were intelligence people, they were people that led the Air Force, the Navy, or what have you. These guys were about it. One of them was James Clapper. James Clapper was a lieutenant general in the United States Air Force and former director of the National Intelligence Agency. And if that doesn't fuck you up, what does? He was part of the DIA from 92 to 95. He has ties to Obama and things like that. And you know what? Again, crazy. Obama comes up in the American Alchemy episode. There are ties to Obama and Chris Bledsoe. It's madness. It really is. So Clapper came on the documentary Age of Disclosure, which again I highly recommend you see. And it was kind of light. There was nothing really to shake a stick at because he literally was disclosing as much as everybody else was in this documentary. This is the director of national intelligence. If you are the DIA director and you don't know dick, should you have been the director of DIA? Did they choose the wrong candidate? It kind of makes you wonder. So now enter Dave Grush. Again, if you follow ufology, you know Dave Grush. He was one of the whistleblowers that had a shitload of information and couldn't say anything because Congress did not have a need to know. Dave Grush is currently working with one of the representatives, Burleson actually, and basically trying to get, Luna and the rest of the gang, the right people to talk to and kind of translate things for them. Because, they're just Congress people. They don't know dick. He does. He's interviewed so many people about this situation. He knows so much, but he's not allowed to tell them. Or us, for that matter. So Grush finally came out fighting. He came out in his fighting weight. He was not going to screw around because he's like, hey, I'm done with this. How can you show up on this particular Age of Disclosure documentary and act like you don't know anything? How can you do that, Mr. Clapper? And listen, in his interview, he was very cordial. He didn't try to start no stuff. He was very respectful of James Clapper. But he did an interview with Megyn Kelly. I think the interview happened today or yesterday. I'm not really sure, but I got a clip of it. And you can see the full interview in the description. Thank you, Megyn Kelly, for making that available to us lowly podcasters. But listen to this.
General Clapper, the former DNI in the documentary. I certainly applaud him for at least speaking out in general. He goes on, I believe, I've only seen clips of Age of Disclosure, not the whole thing, where there was a program when he was the director of national intelligence where they were tracking these vehicles over Area 51, of course, the famed classified test location. And I'm a little bit disappointed as a fellow Air Force officer, and certainly General Clapper rose to the ranks as 3-star general. That's all he said in the documentary, that was a program he was aware of. In fact, without being inappropriate, I will say that General Clapper was well aware of the crash retrieval issue, managed the crash retrieval issue, and when he was the DNI, USDI, and DIA director, he placed people in critical roles to manage this issue, both publicly and I'll just say non-publicly as well. And I'll allow the audience distill what I'm saying at the risk of being inappropriate or going too far with my discussion. So General Clapper, Stephanie O'Sullivan, other folks in the IC that are well aware of this issue, that were in rooms discussing this issue, I ask you to be greater leaders on this. I should not be the only former military officer and intelligence official that is being completely candid with the information that they were exposed to. So perhaps
and once again, James Clapper understates what he knows and what he's done.
Let's be honest. Reportedly, Grush has been through hell and back. From the first time that he tried to report to his superiors what was happening with this whole UFO thing, all the people involved, all the names of the people he interviewed, all the things he discovered. Ever since then, his life has gone to shit. If you look at a lot of his early interviews, you will see that Grush suffered a lot. He couldn't make a living. He had threats. There were unmarked cars parked at his property day and night. They really put him through the ringer. And so he disappeared for a while. And then all of a sudden, here comes the age of disclosure. Clapper's in it. And now he's clapping back. It's a clap for a clap. He's calling him out. Respectfully, like he says. Respectfully, he's calling him out. And he says that basically James Clapper not only did he know about crash retrievals, he managed it. So we'll see if the Clapper claps back. Is the Clapper going to give us some information on this? I don't know. It's something that we're going to have to see. And I don't see why he would not. Because basically, either he lied to Dan Farah, who was the director for Age of Disclosure. He was the guy who also directed Ready Player One, that film. But either he lied to Dan Farah as well, or what if Dan Farah knew? What if James Clapper actually said some of this, or alluded to it, and Dan Farah cut it out of the documentary? I mean, there's so many rabbit holes here. It's unbelievable. This is why we had the podcast a day early, because it is completely nuts. In addition to being part of the DIA, according to what I have here, he was also the director of National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NGA. I mean, does that mean that he saw things from satellites as well? Like Tim Taylor alleged? I mean, these folks are so unassuming. And here they are, and they have access to everything. Access to satellites, access to planes, access to high orbit planes, planes that can fly just below the Kármán line, can track things, video things, picture things. There is a group of people that know so much and share so very little. But it kind of makes you wonder, why in the world did James Clapper come out and be part of this conversation? Especially if you're going to make it seem like you don't know much, but according to Grush, you know a hell of a lot. You know way too much, Mr. Clapper. Clap on, clap off. I don't even know why that came to my mind, but it did. Anyway, the link to that whole interview with Megyn Kelly and Grush is in the description as well. Check it out. You can watch the whole thing. Because now we're moving on to our next piece of madness. This one slaps you in the face. It really does. It slaps you hard. Like if you had chewing gum, it'd be on the person next to you. Because we're back with Three Eye Atlas. Oh, mommy. For the longest time, well, no, I can't even say that. Avi Loeb has been on the forefront of saying that there's something wrong with this object, this interstellar object. And he's been saying, hey, you need to pay attention to it. This could be a Trojan horse, or maybe in the future there is a Trojan horse which dumps a bunch of craziness in our solar system to the point where we'll be caught off guard. And some visitor from an unknown place can come in and take over our planet or planets, right? I mean, we're the only ones that apparently are smart enough to build buildings and technology, so we should have the whole fucking solar system to ourselves. It's our fucking solar system. You got that? But if you don't pay attention, someone can come in and take over stuff. Well, it turns out that someone that we know sent out a FOIA request to the CIA. John Greenwald, which again, if you're familiar with ufology, you know John Greenwald. You know about his channel on X called The Black Vault, and there is also a website. John Greenwald is so skilled at sending out FOIA requests for many things. Now, what inspired him to send a FOIA request related to the Three Eye Atlas situation to the CIA is beyond me. But something happened. The response from the CIA was phenomenal. It made you giddy because NASA came out and say, "Hey, this is just a plain old rock from space. It's a regular asteroid. Don't worry about it as a comet. Oh, don't worry, it's just ice. Oh, don't worry about it. It just happens to do that. Oh, don't worry about it. We've seen this before." Meanwhile, everybody else is saying, "Wait a minute, that's an anomaly. Nope, that's an anomaly. That's an anomaly." I think they're up to like 13 or 15 anomalies. Things that really have not happened, at least not to the extent that it is happening with Three Eye Atlas. So John Greenwald goes and he sends this FOIA request, F2017-0125, and the CIA sends this little this response here. But in the response, it literally says that they can neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of records pertaining to Three Eye Atlas. Now, first, what the fuck does the CIA have to do with Three Eye Atlas to begin with? Why would the CIA be investigating Three Eye Atlas? Now, I get it. I just said it, obvious saying that some of these could be a Trojan horse and you can be pretty much screwed if you do not investigate these. So while NASA is saying, "Oh, it's nothing," I mean, they even lost one of the satellites around Mars, I think, trying to investigate Three Eye Atlas when they weren't investigating Three Eye Atlas. But why is the CIA doing it? Why is the Central Intelligence Agency investigating a rock in space that is millions of miles away from the planet? So either Avi Loeb struck a sensitive chord with the CIA and they decided, well, for fuck's sake, we need to go and check it out. We need to investigate this. And Lord knows what kind of technology they use because we have no idea. People are saying that the technology for this unknown group of the government is about 100 years ahead of what we have now, flying in our skies, regular airplanes. We don't know what they used, but they gave this response, which is known as a Glomar response, which basically they used this to prevent any kind of disclosure by not confirming, by denying whether or not classified information exists. Information related to national security threats or sensitive law enforcement details or secrets. The only thing with the whole thing is, there's a few people who are saying that maybe they're trying to guard national secrets. What national secret is there? Were you looking at the fucking rock or not? Simple as that. Yes, we were, but we cannot disclose top secret information. I can get that. That makes sense to me. And not all the way, right? We don't want to know how you did it, but did you? Or you can just say flat out no. No. We weren't looking at it. Leave us the hell alone. We got more important things than to look at rocks from 4.2 far in the middle of nowhere of the galaxy. They didn't do any of that. Now, either the person that responded to this FOIA request is dumb as rocks and didn't realize that they're basically saying, yes, we did. Or they did. Come on. It's simple. Yes or fucking no. That's all you got to say. John Greenwell is saying that he is going to file an appeal. We don't even need an appeal, I'll be honest, John. Just forget about it. Forget about it. We don't need an appeal. It's a done deal. They said what they said, and we're good. We're good with it. I'm fine. Literally, it tells me that they are looking at it, or they did look at it, or they are still tracking this thing, sending all kind of things, or maybe even employing all kind of listening devices and things to test chemical composition and all that kind of stuff. But they don't want to share what they found. You see, if they looked at this 3I Atlas and they found that it was just a rock with a lot of frozen stuff coming off of it, stuff that created the multiple of tails that it has instead of just one like normally they do, then I could see that. But if all you found was normal chemical composition, normal behavior, you didn't find anything odd on it, then the answer is yes, we did. And guess what? There was nothing to see here. I'm sorry, they're hiding something. That's just the way it is. You did not respond in a way that makes any kind of fucking sense. Not sex. Sorry. My mind kind of just goes to weird places sometimes. Any kind of sense to what the question was. So yeah, you guys are lying. Plain and simple. Like I said, this week has been absolutely nuts when it comes to this stuff. I don't understand. There are so many circles here. Like literally every report from ufology had another, I don't know, like another circle, another timeline open to where now we need to go other rabbit holes, go down through them and try to figure out what those mean. It's been crazy. I'll be honest with you. It was a crazy week. I said I needed to get this out quick because how can you track all of this? It's nuts. Look at the description, pick which one is of interest to you, go visit it, watch it, view it, critique it. But what I challenge you guys to do is if you go to any of these videos, post a question, post your doubts, have conversations with the folks that posted these videos and challenge them. Because a lot of times, there's the interview, but then there's the after party, the Diddy party, where they all oil up and other stuff happens and more information comes out. I'm not saying these guys are like the diddler, but still, that's the way it works. It's happened to me a lot of times. I'll do an interview and literally after the podcast is over, so much other stuff comes out. I'm like, why didn't you say this when we were recording? Challenge these guys, please. Challenge me. If I have someone on here and they report all this kind of stuff, guess what? Send me a question. I'll be happy to answer it. If I can't answer it, I'll send it to the interviewee. Let them explain X, Y, and Z. You never know. You might discover something that wasn't presented to the rest of the world. This is the episode for today. I am so glad we got this together a day early because now I can rest tomorrow and do other stuff. But now you guys are aware of the madness that's happening. I don't even know what I'm going to name this episode. There is so much stuff here. I don't even know. I'm going to have to consult the Oracle. Let the Oracle tell me. Grok. Oh, by the way, next episode, we're going to have to try to get Grok on here. But he'll probably give me that Glomar response because Grok is by the letter. He really is. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. And all I got to say is, ciao.